Bleeding purple and gold. From the heart of Los Angeles, this is the LakersNation.com podcast with your host, Trevor Lane.
Hey everybody, welcome to today's show. As always, we are powered by LakersNation.com and CLNS Media. Today's show is brought to you by NatureBox. Go to naturebox.com/Lakers to get 50% off your first order of some delicious snacks. And MeUndies. Go to MeUndies.com/LakersNation for 20% off your order of some phenomenal underwear or socks. Now, we have an exciting show for you today. Have two guests in our first block. We've got Larry Nance Jr. and Kyle Kuzma of the Los Angeles Lakers. They're going to be chatting a little bit about their transition from being bench players into a starting role. They're also going to talk about where the team is at. Nance is going to update us on his injury and coming back and all of that. Now, they are also working with Activision to promote Call of Duty World War II, so we're going to chat a little bit about that game as well. And then I'm going to bring in Sam Vecenie from The Athletic. We're going to break down where the Lakers are at and specifically get into Lonzo Ball and his jump shot. We'll talk about Brandon Ingram and his development, Julius Randle, where he's at, and of course, Kyle Kuzma. We're going to talk about all those guys, plus a heck of a lot more. Don't forget to head over to iTunes and rate, review, and subscribe to this show. If you leave a question in the review section, we will discuss it on air. With that said, let's jump right into things with Larry Nance Jr. and Kyle Kuzma. Guys, thanks so much for coming on the show.
Yeah, no problem, man.
So I guess we should start out, Larry. We saw the other day that you were tweeting about getting back in the weight room. Are you getting pretty close to returning to on-court activities? How's the rehab process going?
It's going great. You know, the process has gone a lot faster than I thought it would. You know, like I said, I got back in the weight room this past weekend, and now I'm starting to transition back to the court stuff. So, the timetable's looking good.
Well, good. We're excited to see you back out there. Now, Kyle has been filling in for you at the starting power forward slot. Maybe a little bit awkward because he's sitting right next to you, but what's been your assessment of how he's done out there as a starter?
He's looked terrible. I don't know what he's doing. No, he's looked great, and that was never a doubt. You know, he's been playing great since the season started, and you know, he's been super promising. And you know, I just think you know, the way me and him are, when I get back, he'll play better, and when I get back, I'll be back on the court. So I think it's a win-win.
Now, Larry, you told us last time you were on the show that it isn't all that important to you whether you start or not, or which one of you keeps the starting job. Kyle, do you feel the same? Doesn't matter which one of you has that starting spot?
As long as we're winning, doesn't matter. That's the ultimate goal as a team, and the direction that we're trying to get into is, you know, trying to establish a winning culture back in LA. So, you know, it doesn't really matter.
Now, you came in, I mean, obviously this is your rookie season. You came in starting off the bench, and now you've moved into a starting role. Have you noticed a difference between the two? Has it been a little bit of an adjustment to go from coming off the bench to starting, especially in such a short period of time?
Yeah, for sure. There's definitely a difference. You know, when you're in that second unit, you know, you can kind of do your own thing and come in, and, you know, the shots are a lot easier to get off. And then, you know, in the first group, you know, it's starters, and, you know, there's a lot of guys that, you know, have shots necessarily, and you have to just adjust your game in a different type of way. But, you know, I've been doing pretty well with it, and, you know, it's been great. So.
Yeah, one of the things that has really stood out about the Lakers this season, especially compared to last season, has been the defense. And Larry, you and I talked about this last time. Guys, what is it exactly that has been the secret to this huge turnaround defensively? I mean, this team has been in the top 10 in defensive rating. Last I checked, they were 5th in the league. That's just incredible after being in dead last season. So what is it that sparked such a huge change?
I just think it's our willingness to play defense. You know, we're really bought into what the coaches really want from us on that side of the ball, and
we take pride in it. Defense wins championships, and we're trying to get to that level again. So, that's just what we're trying to make our identity.
Hey, Larry, you see the same thing?
Definitely. It's been, guys are just starting to buy in more on that defensive end. Luke and his staff have done a great job of making sure they stress that first and foremost. And so I think we've done a really good job of taking what we work on in practice into the games.
We know that in training camp you guys worked almost exclusively on defense, and we're seeing that translate on the floor, and that's been really exciting. Now the challenge is going to be getting the offense up to speed. Larry, you've been watching the last few games. What do you see when you're not out there on the floor? Now that you're kind of sidelined for just a little bit, are you picking up on some things that you'll be changing when you do get back in there?
A little bit. Everybody's got their role to play. So I'm not going to come back and expect to be averaging 25 a game or even to get 10 shots a game. So, within my role, we've been kind of lacking on the offensive glass, and so when I get back, I'm gonna look to wreak some havoc down there.
And Kyle, what about you? You're out there with the starters right now. What do you think can be improved upon to get that half-court offense clicking just a bit more? Because it feels like that's the one area that you guys can really make a big jump up in, and then start really becoming a team that's going to put some fear into some teams.
I think our overall shot selection. When to take threes. When we're moving the ball and playing as a team, we look pretty good. And when we're not doing that, we don't look pretty good. So I would just say those two observations.
You've looked very, very comfortable for a rookie out there on the floor. You seemed like you transitioned to the NBA seamlessly, like your game just fit right away. What is that a result of? What do you credit for having such a smooth transition into the professional game?
Just my confidence. I work really hard on my game, and I feel like a lot of times when rookies come into the league, they are very timid and not sure of themselves and not sure of their games. And for me, I want to be a very good player in this league. And when I see these primetime guys, I want to play against them, and I want to do well, and I want to play well. So I think that's just what it comes from.
We hear pretty often that a player who slips a little bit in the draft, a little further than they expected, often kind of has revenge games against the teams that pass them up. Now, both of you guys were taken with the 27th overall pick, and both of you exceeded expectations for your draft spot. Because you were picked later than you probably would have liked, has that caused each of you to have kind of like a chip on your shoulder or a little bit of this mentality where you've got to come in and prove people wrong?
For me, not really, because I've always played with a chip on my shoulder, simply because I've always been overlooked my entire life, and I'm guessing that's the same for Larry, because me and him are, similar situation guys, but, we just try to play the game and, try to be the best player we can be on the court when we're in, so.
And Larry, same for you. Draft spot didn't really make a huge difference in terms of your approach to the game or anything like that.
Not necessarily. I know what I did well, and whatever team picked me, I was just going to go do my job for them. So obviously, I appreciate the Lakers for taking me, and I think it's gone pretty well.
Yeah, you both have managed to just build careers, or at least start careers here in Los Angeles. And people are now pointing to you two as examples of how good the Lakers have been at drafting. And the Lakers have brought in a number of young players this year, including Kyle, plus Lonzo Ball, Thomas Bryant, Josh Hart, all these guys. But then you also have an interesting veteran mix where you've got guys like Brook Lopez and Luol Deng and Corey Brewer that are around the team. Can you guys speak a little bit to that mixture and what it does to your chemistry, having the vets around the younger guys?
It's been great. Like you said, we have a ton of young guys and a ton of ton of guys with not a lot of experience. So in the NBA, in close game situations, experience is majorly important. And so to have guys like Brew and Luol and Brooke, kind of in our ears, telling us and helping us with late game situations and even how to handle kind of the day-to-day stressors that come with an NBA has been really good for me as well as the rest of the lesser experienced guys.
Kyle, has there been anybody in particular that's been helping you out this season, kind of taking you under their wing?
It's a really collective group effort for me. I'm very cool with everybody on the roster, and I talk to all those guys. Luol, he does a great job with me. I'm always in his head because he's a great player in this league, and has been for a lot of years. And same with Corey Brewer. Those two guys I can kind of relate to because of position and skill wise.
So let's talk about one other thing here before we get to video games that I was curious about. One other thing that you guys have in common is that you stayed in college a bit longer than most NBA draft picks would, at least some of the higher picks. It seems like the league tends to go towards young guys. Like they look for guys with a ton of upside, and yet both of you stayed in school for 3 or 4 years, stayed in there and developed, and then you came out to the NBA, and it seemed like both of you are now better off for it. So do you think that staying a bit longer than some of these other guys, like Lonzo came out pretty quick, and so did Brandon Ingram, do you think that's helped to give you a leg up? And do you think there's a bit too much of a stigma on players who don't declare for the draft after 1 year or 2 years?
I think it just helps just from the simple fact that you're mature and ready for the game on and off the floor. Doing extra years in college definitely helps, but at the same time, it doesn't help. I feel like if I had the same type of skill level, I would have left after 1 year as well. So, that's what it is.
And Larry, same for you?
Definitely. Being in college for 4 years, your body's more physically ready to be in an NBA-style game.
So, guys, you've been in there promoting the new Call of Duty game, which is on World War II. Can you guys tell us a little bit about the game, what you like about it, and kind of how it's really brought you in?
It gets back to kind of the Call of Duty basics. Very boots to the ground. Less futuristic warfare, and it kind of does a really good job of taking you through the historical aspect of World War II.
So when you say you go into the historical aspect of World War II, are you, I haven't seen the game a whole lot yet. Are you storming the beaches in Normandy? Is that part of it? Are you fighting in the Pacific? What's in there?
All of it. The very opening scene is you getting off the boats and storming the beaches of Normandy, and later on you're fighting battles up in Germany and France and stuff like that. So it kind of takes you on almost like a visual tour of the war.
Now, when you two guys play, I'm assuming you guys have played on the same team a little bit in this game, but when you play against each other, which one of you wins? Who's actually better at this game at this point?
Definitely Larry. He's a big gamer. I play games, but not at his level. He has the game chairs, the Turtle Beach mics. He's got it all. So
I had a week to practice while they were on the road.
So definitely him.
Larry, did your hand injury inhibit you or prohibit you from playing games at all? Was that an issue?
It did at first, and then once I got the swelling out, it was actually one of the best forms of rehab for me.
Really? All right, so cool. So video games are helping you get back out on the court earlier. So that's an interesting little tidbit there. Larry, how long have you been playing the Call of Duty games for?
Oh, geez, probably 7 or 8 years now. I started with Call of Duty Modern Warfare. Or not Modern Warfare. Yeah, Modern Warfare. So it's been about since middle high school.
And what is it that has made this game one of your favorites?
It's kind of back to the boots to ground combat. Very less of like the flying around in space type stuff, and more, the historical aspect actually.
So we've heard a lot about the different team building activities that you guys have done, including paintballing and things like that. Could Call of Duty be a team building activity for the Lakers if you guys were to work together?
Yeah, for sure. A lot of us like the shooting game aspect. Even in the summertime, a lot of us went paintballing together. So Call of Duty on the road could definitely be something for us.
All right. Well, guys, I certainly appreciate the insight into both the Lakers and this new game, Call of Duty World War II. Very, very cool stuff. Appreciate you guys taking the time.
Yep, appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
Great stuff from Larry Nance Jr. and Kyle Kuzma. Certainly appreciate them coming on the show. Next up, we have the Athletics' Sam Vecenie. Before we get to him, though, we got to talk real quick about MeUndies. Every year, millions of people received the least liked gift of all time, which is underwear. But we still give it to our family, friends, and loved ones who just don't really want it. But maybe it's not really underwear that's the problem. It's the kind of underwear. So let me tell you about MeUndies, the only underwear that makes for an amazing gift. MeUndies features a soft, flexible waistband. It is actually 3 times softer than cotton. You really notice the difference. And it comes from a natural, sustainably sourced fiber. MeUndies makes the perfect gift for everyone that is going to love you for giving that to them. It is a holiday miracle. This year, don't give underwear, give MeUndies. This holiday season, to get your exclusive 20% off the softest underwear and socks you will ever wear, free shipping plus a 100% satisfaction guarantee, go to MeUndies.com/LakersNation. Again, that's MeUndies.com/LakersNation. I'm a customer, highly recommend them. Go check it out. All right, now, as I said, we do have senior writer Sam Vecenie from The Athletic on today. Sam, thanks so much for hopping on with me.
Yeah, of course, Trevor. How's it going, man?
It's going good. The Lakers are doing okay here. We've seen some good things, seen some bad things, but all in all, I think you got to be optimistic. So life is good. How about you?
I'm all right, man. Just kind of getting through the early part of that, because I write about both the NBA and college basketball. So, the early part of the NBA season, I get to watch a ton of NBA. And then once college basketball kicks in, you realize, can I swear on this podcast? I don't remember.
I don't know. I mean, we put it in as a clean podcast, but nobody's ever said anything to me. So
okay. I said, oh crap.
There we go.
There's so much for me to watch that I don't have enough hours in the day to get through 4 college games and 2 NBA games per night and, keep track of all these prospects. So, it ends up being a situation where, over the last week and a half, I've watched maybe parts of some NBA games, a few full college games, a few full, parts of college games, some a couple of full NBA games. You kind of just have to mix and match depending on what the night is. And yeah, man, it's this is where the season starts to get a little wild for me.
Well, you get in a little bits and pieces of it and everything, but it sounds like overall it's a whole heck of a lot of basketball, right?
I would say that's about my life. Yeah. I did go see Justice League last night. So that was nice. I got a chance to get out of the house and go down to the Chinese theater out here on Hollywood Boulevard, which is, walking distance from where I live. So that was the first time I'd ever been in the big, IMAX, screen at the Chinese theater. That was super cool. But no, other than that, I'll go see movies, go out to dinner occasionally, but it's basketball and that's about it, man.
I hear you. I'm about the same way. I've got my first opportunity to go see a movie probably since the baby came along, and she's 16 months old now. So we've got the in-laws out, and they're gonna watch her. I'm gonna finally get to go see Thor, and then Justice League is gonna be next on my list. So I'm excited. I get to go do that later today. So I guess as far as the Lakers go, we might as well start with what everybody's talking about, and that's Lonzo Ball. And we were talking about this a little bit before we went on the air, but Lonzo is now receiving criticism, not necessarily for his play on the floor, but because he didn't get in a fight. well, an NBA fight anyway. I mean, there was a little bit of a scuffle with Tyler Ulis and Kentavious Caldwell-Pope in the Lakers loss to the Suns the other night. And Lonzo Ball just kind of walked past the frenzy or whatever you want to call it. And he didn't look too interested in it. People said he should have gotten involved. Other people said no, he shouldn't. Sam, how ridiculous is all of this?
Yeah, I mean, the entire story is just so totally absurd to me. Like, I guess that where I struggle with this one is NBA fights are fake fights by nature, right? Like there are rarely any serious punches thrown. Like Tyler Ulis is scrappy, and I don't know that it's above him to start like throwing necessarily, but Tyler Ulis is also like 10 inches shorter than Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. Like I don't think he's trying to like get into it like full stop with KCP. And like it's pretty obvious to me that at the end of the day, this is going to end with people getting separated and nothing happening really. So what it seems like to me people are complaining about with Lonzo is that he just walked away and it's some sort of like stain on his leadership that he didn't go over and I guess like try and stop the fight or back up his teammates in some way or like whatever they want to happen. And I guess that my thing is that if the answer to what you're asking Lonzo to do is to go over there and perform some like fake performative BS, like, oh yeah, I'm over here, I'm kind of backing up my teammates, but I don't really care, then that's just not a real thing to care about. Like if we're asking him to do something that is by nature not genuine, then what is the importance of the deal? And then second, I just don't really like, are you going to ask him to like go over and back up his teammates and like, start throwing punches? That seems like a situation where you're a franchise player, theoretically, like the Lakers have told you all this stuff about how you're the team, you're the franchise player going forward to the future. Is it worth you getting injured in a scrap? Finally, and to me, this is like kind of the part that gets me the most frustrated with like the modern media landscape, is that this is a no-win situation for Alonzo, regardless of what he did. If he goes over and starts like shoving people, starts like, getting engaged in the little scrap, like there were probably like 4 or 5 shoves thrown. And, if he starts getting in the middle of it to be a quote unquote leader, the media is then going to go, oh, is frustration boiling over in Los Angeles with Lonzo Ball getting in this massive confrontation with Tyler Ulis, who is 9 inches shorter than he is? No, like if he then walks away, we're in the situation that he's in now. So like this was a case where people were going to like complain about Lonzo Ball regardless of what he did. And it's just all so very silly to me.
He's screwed either way in that situation. You're absolutely right. And then on top of it, I mean, it's just that it's Lonzo that's creating this focus.
Right.
I mean, people were like at length discussing the fact that he got a haircut earlier in the day. I mean, that's just kind of indicative of where we are right now with Lonzo. Every single thing that he does is going to be news. So of course, whether or not he gets in a little scuffle or whatever is going to be this huge story. He actually said after the game, this is his quote. He said, "It's the NBA. People ain't really going to fight, so I ain't trying to get no tech." And that was via Spectrum Sportsnet. Now Lonzo was, I mean, the Lakers were trying to come back against the Suns. So that way, I mean, he's right. If he picks up a technical foul and he puts more points on the board for the Suns, and that actively hurts the team. Now, was he thinking about all of that in that second? I don't know. He might have been. But yeah, I mean, it seems like an overreaction, which is kind of par for the course with all things Lonzo right now, right?
Yeah, I mean, everything he does is a story. Like, full stop. Like, every single thing. He gets a haircut. It's a story. He goes 1 for 7 from 3 against the 76ers. It's a story. He, walks away from a scrap. It's a story. It's just all, like, I'm just very over it all. Like, I just want to see him at some point try and settle in to his career as a basketball player. I'm not a Lakers fan Like I live out here in LA, but I'm from Pittsburgh originally. Like I didn't grow up, rooting for the Lakers and wanting them to return to glory or whatever. I just want to see this kid who I've, gotten a chance to talk to a few times over the course of his time in Los Angeles get a chance to succeed. And, I think a lot of this you can say is brought on by LeVar and brought on by Magic Johnson and brought on by people outside of him. You know what I mean? And that's just really frustrating.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you listen to the things that he has actually said, and there's nothing that's really inflammatory or nothing that would make you go, oh man, I can't believe he said that. I mean, he is very just straight to the point with the things that he says. He always tries to say the right thing. He's always trying to be the team first guy. It's the other people around him that are making lots of noise and everything and building up all of this hype. So let's talk a little bit about what he's doing on the floor, because Sam, you and I talked quite a bit about him pre-draft, and of course you've been following Lonzo's game for quite a bit. Right now, a lot of people are freaking out over his shooting. Where are you at with that whole situation?
Yeah, I think the shooting is a little bit of a concern. I do think that he is not a true, what's he shooting right now? Like 25% from three? Something like that. Yeah, I don't know what it is after last night.
Here. I can look that up. He is at right now. He's at 23% from three right now.
Yeah, I don't think he's a true 23% 3-point shooter. I do think the free throws have always been an issue. He's never been an awesome free throw shooter. I don't think he's a 46% 3-point or free throw shooter, but I don't know that he's an awesome free throw shooter. The finishing at the rim has been concerning to me as well, and that is a concern that I had about him going back to, I'm sure you could listen to the pre-draft podcasts you and I did, talking about, okay, the lack of explosion off of 1 foot is a worry. He's going to struggle to finish, I think, in traffic at the NBA level. One thing that I do like is that he's been a little bit better in the pick and roll in the open floor of the NBA than what I think I may have expected. At the end of the day, though, this is a guy who's averaging 9 points a game on 30% shooting. That is atrocious. That is awful for a guy who's playing 33 minutes a night. He's also averaging 6.8 assists per game versus 2.7 turnovers. He's doing a great job of getting his teammates involved. He's doing a great job of creating an unselfish culture there. He's a really, really good rebounding guard. Defensively, he's such a mixed bag right now that it's kind of hard to say he's a positive. He's just so bad at allowing penetration in pick and roll settings. He just dies on screens, as just about every single rookie point guard does in the NBA other than Chris Dunn. But he's been effective at contesting shots, and he's averaging 1.6 steals per game. I tend to think that containing penetration is at the point of attack is probably the most important job that a point guard has. But at the end of the day, he hasn't been a total disaster defensively, and the Lakers, I think, are 4th or 5th in defensive rating right now. So I don't know that you can really even, full on complain about him on that end. It all just comes back to scoring the basketball. And, he's doing everything else at an acceptable level right now. He's 19 years old. Rookies by nature are bad at NBA basketball. I guess he just turned 20. I'm sorry, now looking at his page. 20-year-old rookies by nature are bad at basketball. There are exceptions. Jason Tatum is really good right now. There are a few others throughout the course of history that are, acceptable rookies as fresh as one and done players coming into the NBA. But, it's just an overreaction to me right now. He looks okay. He maybe looks a little bit worse than what the expectation. I mean, he definitely looks way worse than what the expectations were. But the expectations were too high to begin with, I guess, to me.
Right.
Well, what I expected was him to come in and kind of do something similar to what he's done, just with maybe better shooting efficiency.
Yeah, I mean that's really it. You mentioned his defense, and his defense has been better than expected, I think. I mean, we were expecting something like some kind of a turnstile on defense. I remember you and I spoke about how bad defensively he and D'Angelo Russell would be together, and how much of a just cluster that was going to be. But you know what, I think we didn't account for his size of the position, because he does get burned sometimes that first step, but he does a really nice job recovering and contesting shots when a guy does get a step on him. So he's done pretty well there. Can't complain about the defense. It's really just the shot. And people are already starting to talk about reworking his shot and trying to fix it because, there's no getting around the fact that he shoots funny. Sam, what would that entail if you were to try to fix Lonzo Ball's shot? How big of a process is that? I mean, I say that doesn't even take like one summer. That's something that takes years to do, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's no chance that you're doing it midseason,
right.
Like under no circumstances. Like he's not going to be like adjusting his shot like in January or whatever. This is the shot that Lonzo has right now. Next summer you can maybe. It's so weird because he obviously has funky shooting mechanics in general. But you kind of don't want to totally overwork them. Like I remember a few summers ago, like the Cavs decided to entirely rework Tristan Thompson's jump shot, right? Like from the ground floor up.
Well, didn't he switch hands, Tristan Thompson?
He switched hands. He did it all.
Yeah.
Like he was a right-handed player in general, but like even in terms of mechanics, like they totally shifted it. Like he used to have like his ball come out from like the left side of his head. Like he's got out more in front of his face now. Like it's a much cleaner looking jump shot. With Lonzo, I don't really know that that's going to be something that the Lakers do. Right now, the biggest issue with his jump shot is confidence to me. And I think you can kind of see that in the way that he's shooting like under 90% if you combine both, or under like 80% if you combine both his free throw percentage and his 3-point percentage. Like it's incredible to me that he is shooting this poorly. But what you're seeing right now is I think the release point is a little bit lower. I think he's kind of tinkering a little bit right now because he started out shooting so poorly and it's getting a little bit worse, and I think he's pressing. The release point has gotten like a little bit lower, and what that's doing when you have such like, strange mechanics and such a shot that it's almost like catapulty by nature. It's a very rhythm-based jump shot. And all of the moving pieces have to be in alignment. What that means is that I think that right now, because his release point is a little bit lower and he's kind of tinkering a little bit, he has an inconsistent level of rhythm and kind of has an inconsistent release point right now as well. And that's throwing things all out of alignment because I've done I think the deepest dive on Lonzo's jump shot of anyone on the internet, probably. You can go to Vice for back when I was working at Vice to read that. What happens with Lonzo's jump shot is that he starts way over on his left. And by the time he releases the ball, he's a left eye dominant shooter. By the time he releases the ball, it's not like hyper different from someone like a Kevin Durant or a Kevin Martin, like other right-handed left eye dominant shooters.
Right.
And what happens is that in midair, he gets realigned. Like he starts out of alignment with his jump shot. And then by the time he releases the ball, he is totally aligned with the basket. Is the way that his jump shot worked at UCLA, at least. And you can kind of see it. Like I break it down like with film and everything like that. What's happening now, because he's tinkering with it, I think, and because his confidence is low and because he's kind of trying to do a bunch of different stuff, I think that the alignment is not coming back together at the top of his jump shot, and it's creating just wild results where you'll see him throw one off the backboard occasionally. And come up short and then come up long. Like there's no consistency to his misses. So that makes it really, really difficult to try and figure out, okay, what do I do to fix this? And that's why having such a strange jump shot is difficult in general, because once you start struggling with it, there's no one who can really teach you to come back with it,
Right, yeah, there's so many different places along the way from him bringing the ball up and getting into his shooting motion for things to get thrown off. Right. So it gives you that pretty big, margin of error there where he could easily get thrown off. And then you wind up with, like you said, these shots that are flying all over the place. I was thinking about that yesterday when I was watching him shoot during I was looking at some of the film. And he doesn't miss like consistently short or consistently long or right or left. It's just kind of everywhere. And like you said, that's a fantastic assessment. It makes it tough to figure out exactly what he needs to tweak, and that's where we're getting people that are commenting, of course, on Twitter and all over the place, saying, "Oh, he needs to completely rework it and he needs to fix it and all that." Well, that entails a lot, especially because he's been shooting the way he has been for his entire life.
So I'll also just kind of address that really quickly. Like I talked to LeVar about potentially doing just that, like thinking about, okay, is it, if you guys ever considered reworking it? He talked to me about like how before UCLA went to Australia last year for their off-season trip, he said like if you're on the right side of the floor, maybe like bring the ball up toward the middle a little bit more. You'll be able to get it off easier from the mid-range area. He tried that. Lonzo shot like hell. Like he shot terribly. And what happened there was he said, just go back to your old shooting motion. And Lonzo shot 40% from three last year. And what LeVar's assessment on that is we are never tinkering with his jump shot again. Like that's, I literally have that quote on the record from LeVar. We are never messing with his jump shot again. So like the question is too, like how receptive is Lonzo going to be to tinkering with the jump shot too? Like it's not just a circumstance where the Lakers might say, hey, we want you to mess with your jump shot this summer and try and get things, back to the way you were in college, or, we might want to rework your entire mechanics. I don't know. Like, I don't know that we have an answer if Lonzo's going to be receptive to that.
Yeah, he may not. And it's going to take, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't force him to drink. You can tell Lonzo all you want that he needs to fix it. If it's not something that he's willing to do, if it's not something that his dad is willing to do, then it's not going to happen. So it's going to be interesting to see how that all plays out. Hopefully his shot does come around. Like you said, he shot 40% from three in college, and a lot of those threes were at least a step back from the college three-point line. Right. So he's shooting NBA threes already and was converting them at the college level. So hopefully that's something that will kind of, regress to the mean, and that would mean a jump up in percentage. I do want to move on to Kyle Kuzma, but before we get to that, I got to talk real quick about Nature Box. See, we all want to eat better, but when it comes to snacks, sometimes it feels like the whole world is delicious and a billion calories versus boring and tasteless. Well, it doesn't have to be that way. You can up your snacking game with Nature Box. They have over 100 snacks that taste good and are better for you. They're made from high quality, simple ingredients, no artificial colors, flavors, or sweeteners. My favorites are the mini Belgian waffles and the mini snickerdoodle cookies. I don't know, apparently I just like things in miniature form, but they are very, very good. You are sure to find your new snack obsession at NatureBox. They add new snacks every month inspired by real customer feedback and professional chefs. It's very simple. Go to naturebox.com, pick the snacks that you want, and they get delivered right to your door. There's no risk. If you try a snack you don't like, don't eat it. NatureBox will replace it for free. And right now you can save even more because NatureBox has partnered with us, and they are offering Lakers Nation fans 50% off their first order. Just go to naturebox.com/Lakers. That's naturebox.com/Lakers, 50% off your first order. Go check them out, naturebox.com/Lakers. All right, Sam. As problematic as Lonzo has been with his shot and as much criticism as he's been taking, Lakers fans have absolutely fallen in love with their 27th overall pick, Kyle Kuzma, who is just absolutely on fire. He's got everyone super excited. And against the Phoenix Suns, he posted a career-high 30 points, also grabbed 10 rebounds. He has been incredible and is now taking over the starting power forward job. We didn't see this coming from Kyle Kuzma. What the heck is going on here, Sam?
Yeah, no, I am someone who was not super high on Kyle Kuzma coming out of college. Like, I think I had him rated somewhere in the 40s on my board. Like, I thought he'd have been a fine second-round pick. But to be frank, I thought the Lakers kind of overdrafted him at number 27. He is a guy that at Utah, I've now gone back and kind of tried to figure out where I got it wrong with Kyle Kuzma. Like, where did I miss this? Like, what skills has he shown with Los Angeles that I missed? And did he get a chance to show that at Utah? And for me, I think it's more that Utah didn't necessarily put him in position a lot of the time to show off some of the immense body control and fluidity and kind of three dribble, left-handed layup finish, or gets the ball in the post and attacks a mismatch and uses his quickness to get by a guy. There was a lot of stretch 4-y stuff where he was, just kind of shooting threes, attacking closeouts, being active on the offensive glass, kind of doing, he was more limited there, I guess, under Larry Kraskowiak. And he was really, really good in college. Don't get me wrong, but he was not this in college. He was nothing remotely near this. And that's what's impressed me most. I think that the fact that he's still not a great shooter, like he is reverted back a little bit. Like he's at like 31% from three. It's a fluid jump shot that I think people are still like, I think he has this sense of gravity from opposing NBA teams.
Yeah, he does.
That he hasn't really earned yet, because people are like, oh, Kyle Kuzma's really good now, we have to guard him. You know what I mean?
Right.
But, the shooting has reverted back. Like he's at 31%, which is right in line with what his college numbers were. And I do worry that if the shooting continues to be down at that level, it could be a little bit of a struggle for him to get as much space when he attacks off the dribble and, attacks mismatches in the post is what he has now. But at the same time, this kid just keeps getting better and better and better and better. And it's a credit to him. It's a credit to his trainer, who I know is Clint Parks. It's a credit to so much of the work that he has put in and so much of the work the Lakers have put in scouting him and seeing some of the skills that he had in some of these workouts and some of these, non-Utah events in the draft cycle that other people just didn't get to see. And, maybe other people didn't notice in the draft. If there was a redraft, I would imagine he would go in the lottery now, like pretty easily. So I'm a big fan of Kuzma. I have seen enough to know that he is going to be, at the very least, a very, very good NBA rotation player. And the ceiling is much, much higher than that for him.
Yeah, it's his versatility that I think has made such a big difference for the Lakers, because he can switch between that small forward and power forward slot, and more importantly, defensively, he can switch onto just about anybody. I mean, even if he gets switched onto a quick point guard, he gets down in his stance, he slides his feet, he gets burned sometimes, but he really competes on that end.
Yeah, he really cares. That's really important. Exactly.
You look at, his block numbers are terrible. He's not blocking very many shots at all, but he is contesting everything. Every single time that anybody in his vicinity is putting up a shot, he's there getting a hand in their face, and that kind of thing matters. I mean, it's allowing him to make a difference out there on the floor, and of course the scoring has been phenomenal. I mean, he is almost at a genius level when it comes to slicing through the lane and just finding ways to get his shot off. It's just so impressive. And I mean, when we first went over our post-draft grades, I think I gave this pick a B, because I thought they could have got him later in the draft and was kind of surprised they took him so early and everything. But just like with Larry Nance Jr., the Lakers proved me wrong here. I mean, he has been a tremendous player and certainly one of the top rookies in the league. So for Kuzma moving forward here, he took over the starting power forward job from Larry Nance Jr., but as Nance mentioned earlier on this show, he is on the verge of getting back out on the court. In fact, he was just recently cleared to resume basketball activities, and so his return to game action is going to be coming pretty soon. And the Lakers defensively were really good with Larry Nance Jr. in that starting spot, but in my mind, I think Kuzma has won this. You let him keep the starting spot, right? I mean, you agree with me there, Sam?
I don't know that it's like a situation of won or lost necessarily. Okay. Like, I don't know that Larry Nance has lost this job, but like Kyle Kuzma, I think, has taken it. And I think he's a slightly better fit with Lonzo Ball on offense and will allow Lonzo a bit more space to kind of navigate in the mid-range area and in pick and roll settings, just because, like I said, Kuzma does have that sense of gravity for the opposition that Larry Nance doesn't have. So I would keep playing Kuzma with the starters because I like that fit better. But, I still think Larry Nance is well deserving of a spot in this rotation. He is a very good defensive basketball player.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we talked just a minute ago about how Kuzma can switch onto just about anybody, and Nance is perhaps even better at doing that, especially out on the perimeter. He is a excellent basketball player, and I certainly wouldn't want to take too many minutes away from him, but just in this starting rotation, it feels like Kuzma has been a very good fit because of his ability to shoot, or at least the perceived ability to shoot. If we'll see if he continues hitting from 31%. But it does seem like a major steal in the draft for the Lakers here with the 27th overall pick. Now, Sam, last time I had you on, we talked quite a bit about Julius Randle, and you were really excited about him. You're a big fan of Julius Randle and a believer of his, and that's not the case with everybody. He's a pretty polarizing player. Some people are pretty down on him, but you were high on him, and he's had a pretty solid season. Actually had quite a bit of success as a backup center. Now we're seeing him in some rotations as the backup power forward, playing alongside Andrew Bogut. We know he's going to be a free agent coming up next summer. What's your take on this whole Randle situation? We're not sure if the Lakers are going to be able to keep him or not.
Well, I think that they're utilizing him perfectly right now. If you look at his per 36 numbers, he's at like 21 points a game and 12 rebounds. And, he's doing really, really well defensively. And, at least on the perimeter, like he's still a non-factor in terms of rim protection. But you can find matchups at the end of games where that works, like where you do want to contain penetration with switches on the perimeter and someone who can guard out there. And he's a pretty good passer. I would say that he's not like an incredible passer like he started last season, like, being able to legit lead the break in the open floor and finding like all these crazy shooters out on the wing, even though the Lakers like had no shooters. I don't know if he's that necessarily as a passer, but he's good enough to where you can give him the ball in the high post and he can initiate offense a little bit. The key for me is that this is the role where I think he's going to be most successful. It's a valuable role, I think, in the NBA. Like, I don't mean to understate what Julius Randle can do. Like, he's 23 years old, so I think a lot of people believe there to be upside in what he's capable of. I don't really know that I think that like he can be a mid-level starter in the NBA, but I think that what we've seen so far is really great. He's shooting like 60%, getting a lot of high leverage looks. He can really use his athleticism and body control off the bounce to take advantage of backup centers in the NBA. And I think that's where I like him most. And, you talk about keeping him, trading him, maybe losing him in free agency, whatever. I just don't know how much that guy gets paid in the offseason. Like, I feel like it's not going to be a crazy amount of money, even though the numbers and the age would point to that. Because if you look around the league right now, it's a very center flush market.
Right.
And like, I don't know that a lot of teams are going to be like, Julius Randle pushes us over the hump. We need to go out and do anything we can to sign him. Let's give him $15 million. Like, Nerlens Noel this year, yeah, he had the crazy offer, the 4-year, $70 million or whatever it was, but he also did not necessarily like end up cashing in. Like, he ends up taking the qualifying offer to try free agency next summer. And I think you can point to plenty of examples over the course of the last few years where bigs have, especially undersized bigs, have been a little bit undervalued on the free agency market. So I don't know that Randall's going to get like the massive payday that he's thinking. Now, like, maybe he gets $10 million a year, $12 million a year. That's fine. But like, I don't think it's going to be a wild amount of money.
Yeah, I'd agree with that, especially with this summer being such a, well, I mean, there's just not that much cap space out there this year. It's not like in years past. So, I mean, he's restricted, first of all, or he's probably going to be restricted, assuming the Lakers give him a qualifying offer. And then you don't have that many places that you could see where he'd really be a great fit. So it's kind of a weird situation where his cap hold is actually going to be about $12.5 million. And I don't know that he'll even get that much money, especially coming off the bench for the Lakers. If people start to see him in this bench role. Now, the Lakers might be in a weird spot because they're going to be chasing stars. They're going to be chasing, LeBron James and Paul George and guys like that. And if they want to keep Randle and they think they can get him at, say, I don't know, $8 million or $9 million or something like that, they have to come to terms with him pretty quickly in order to free up that extra cap space below his cap hold if they want to keep him around. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do with him. I think he's a candidate to potentially be traded at the deadline, but I don't really know exactly how much they could get for him either because of that pending restricted free agency that's coming up. So he's going to definitely be a guy to watch. But at this point, you think that going forward, his best role is to just continue coming off the bench and acting as kind of a backup center / power forward, depending on the situation. That's going to be the path to success for him.
I do, and I don't think that that's a negative statement on his game. Like I said, like I think a sixth man as a big man is a really, really valuable position who can get 25 minutes a game. And if he can keep performing at this level that he has so far this year, to me, that's a really, really valuable asset. That's a guy who gets paid, like I said, $12 million a year in the summer. Like, that's an awesome player to me.
Yeah, yep, I agree. I think that he's going to be definitely one to watch, and hopefully the Lakers are able to hang on to him, or if they have to get rid of him, we'll see what they're able to actually get for him. I think that for Lakers fans, what you don't want to see happen is that they just let him go in free agency, especially if somebody gives him a big offer right away, and then they opt to not match while they're still waiting on LeBron and Paul George and all these other guys to decide, and then those guys say no. I think that's kind of the nightmare scenario for the Lakers, is to watch guys walk away and while they're waiting for an answer, and then get no as the response from the Stars. That would be a tough blow. So we'll see how they kind of navigate those waters. Before we wrap up here, there's another guy that we have to talk about, and he's been really turning it on lately. I know we've talked about him quite a bit in the past. Brandon Ingram, I'm amazed at the way he's attacking the basket right now. I mean, he's got those long, Street Fighter 2 dulcim arms that are just flying all over the place. He's attacking the rim. He's starting to convert his jump shots, and I'm seeing a lot more out of him defensively. Are you seeing the same things? Are you excited by what you see from Brandon Ingram, or were you kind of expecting this?
Yeah, I guess that I think that the number 2 overall pick moniker has placed like a pretty outsized expectation on what he was entering the league. He was always a project. When you're 6'9", 6'10", with a 7'5" wingspan and like 185 pounds entering the NBA, or 190 pounds entering the NBA, there's going to be a lot that you have to do to be able to effectively play at that level. I don't think it was a 1-year process for him. Like I said at the time, I think he's probably going to start out his career pretty poorly just because he's so skinny. It always took him, like at every level, it took him a couple of years to come on in high school. It took him midway through his freshman year in college to figure it out. And now I think we're seeing him hopefully starting to figure it out. I mean, he still is just so skinny that the jump shot has to be working for him to be able to keep defenses honest. And I worry that like this is something I think we've talked about before, where to me, like one of the most underrated skills that, or, things that jump shooters have, really good ones, is they have to have a strong base. They have to have really, really, physical strength and physical endurance get really underrated when it comes to jump shooting, because it's a muscle memory thing. Whenever you start to get tired and you don't have the strength remaining, your jump shot mechanics naturally get knocked off and things start flying everywhere and you can't really recover it. I think that we're starting to see a circumstance where with Brandon Ingram, he's getting stronger. He's getting, a little bit more comfortable within his body as he continues to put on weight, and hopefully is going to keep getting better. The jump shot hasn't shown like wild returns, but there's been a slight jump. There's been a couple of a percentage point jump on his 3-point shooting. There's certainly been a pretty big jump in his field goal percentage as he starts taking more and more shots around the rim and starts being able to embrace contact around there a little bit more. One of the big things that I've always said about him is that I wouldn't, necessarily say that he is soft. That's a label that gets thrown on him often. I think he's actually really feisty. He just can't battle right now. He just doesn't have the strength to battle right now. You see him in there. He's in the middle of this stuff, like grabbing rebounds and trying to play physically. He just can't do it yet. I think year 3 is always going to be the key year for Brandon Ingram. We need to see, what he's capable of, hopefully by year 3, so that the Lakers kind of understand where they can go and how they can build around him. Now the Lakers are in a circumstance where they're trying to find stars, and maybe they can't really wait that long. I would stress being patient with Brandon Ingram in the same way that I stressed being patient with D'Angelo Russell, and just say, hey, this kid's really young. This kid has a frame that is going to take a while to mature. He's showing signs. He's showing flashes, like the last 2 games, for instance, where I think he's averaged over 20 points. You just got to hold on, and you got to wait, and you got to reap the benefits when he's 23, 24.
Absolutely. I agree 100%. He's the kind of guy that is just going to take time for him to put on weight. Everybody said, oh, this kid needs to start eating and everything. That's not what you want him to do. You don't want him to put on just mass. You don't want to put on fat. You want functional strength, and that's what he's been focused on building. So Brandon Ingram has been doing it the right way. And here's the thing. You said that we're seeing flashes, and I agree 100%. I saw in his rookie season, we would see one, maybe two things per game that would make you go, okay, wow, there's something that this kid can do really well. He would sky for a rebound and his arms would just go on forever, and he'd grab a big rebound over somebody or something like that. Or towards the end of the season, he started attacking the rim. Now we're seeing 3 to 4 plays per game that make you stand up and go, wow, okay, this kid has something. It's next season where we want to start seeing that even more consistently. So I think he's right on track for his development. He is not a superstar yet. And I think that part of the problem and part of the reason why Ingram takes so much flack is it's so critical that the Lakers find new stars. And when you have other guys in the league come in and play so well right off the bat, when you've got guys like Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons and all these other guys that are just hit the ground running and they're dominating right away. And then you look at the Lakers young guys and you're going, oh, okay, well, why aren't they doing that? And I don't think it's really fair. It's not really comparing apples to apples, but fans don't really think that way.
So I want you to go through the top 10 in the last draft and say who you would rather have than Brandon Ingram. So Ben Simmons went number 1. The Lakers didn't have a chance to take Ben Simmons. Right. Jaylen Brown went number 3. I think Jaylen has a lower ceiling than Brandon, but I would imagine that most Lakers fans would probably say they would rather have Jaylen Brown than Brandon Ingram, just given what we've seen from Jaylen so far. I will say Jaylen was always a lot more physically ready to play in the NBA, being 6'7", 7-foot wingspan, 225 pounds, a lot more physically capable, but he's shown a lot more, no doubt. Next, Dragan Bender. Next, Chris Dunn, Buddy Hield, Jamal Murray, Marquise Chris, Jakob Poeltl, Thon Maker, Domantas Sabonis, Taurean Prince, Papagiannis, Denzel Valentine, Juancho, Yabusele. Wade Baldwin is cut already.
Right.
To me, Brandon Ingram is still probably the third best player in that draft. I guess that maybe you could say I'd rather have Malcolm Brogdon, but Malcolm Brogdon was never going to be in the mix at number 2 overall. So
no, even though he won Rookie of the Year, he definitely wasn't that guy. So you've got what? You've got Ben Simmons ahead of him, and then who else are you putting ahead of Ingram out of that draft?
I'd probably take Jaylen over Brandon Brown. Ingram right now.
Defensively, sure.
Defensively and offensively, I think that he's just a little bit better of a slasher right now. He's a lot more physically capable of finishing at the rim. He's a better athlete right now than Brandon Ingram is. He probably always will be a better athlete than Brandon Ingram is. So I would probably take Jaylen, but I will say I think Brandon Ingram has a much higher upside if the entire frame comes together. I just think there's a little bit more uncertainty with Ingram.
Sure, and if you think back to that draft too, I mean, Jaylen Brown was a little bit of a surprise pick at 3. There were some people that had him at 6, 7. I saw one mock draft even dropped him all the way to 9. Mm-hmm. I mean, the Celtics got criticized quite a bit for taking him at 3. So that definitely wasn't the obvious pick there or anything like that. So yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I don't think there's very many. There's nobody really from that draft that I would necessarily take ahead of Ingram. You can definitely make an argument for Brown. I mean, assuming Ben Simmons is going number 1, of course. But yeah, I mean, I don't know what else you could have asked the Lakers to do there with that selection. And we're seeing good things from him. We're starting to see positive progression from Brandon Ingram. And on top of that, I think this is maybe something that is underreported or at least undervalued, is what you hear about him off the floor. Everything that we hear about him is how hard of a worker he is, how he's becoming a leader, how he's becoming vocal in the locker room, and all these different things. And that kind of stuff matters. And that's the kind of stuff that you may not necessarily see in a box score, but that can make a big difference in who a player ends up becoming, what his ceiling is. And all of those things are pointing up for Brandon Ingram. So I think that's important to note as well.
Yeah, no, 100%. He's the kind of guy that I think is going to keep improving. You don't have to worry about him stagnating at this stage right now. Like, maybe things change. I don't know what's going to happen down the road, but everything that you know about him on a personal level, you can feel confident that he's going to get the most out of his ceiling, whatever that ceiling is. And I think given his physical tools, we can say the ceiling is pretty high. You know what I mean? Like he should have, like, I was a little bit lower on, like, some people thinking he was like an all-star level player. I didn't necessarily think that. Like, I thought his role was going to be, okay, he's going to be like a long-time starter in the NBA who's like maybe a few years like a borderline all-star who, averages like 17 points and 10 rebounds, or maybe like 8 rebounds and a few assists a game and plays solid defense.
Wait, but I thought he was the next Kevin Durant, right?
No, he's not the next Kevin Durant. Like, that was always he's just not athletic enough. And like another thing of this is that these guys are really hard to project athletically, right? Like the super skinny, super long guys. They're really difficult to project athletically because they don't have the muscle mass that other players do at that stage. Like, if you remember Giannis coming out of Greece in those first couple years, Giannis was not nearly this athletic as he is now. Like, he has grown into his frame and become more explosive as his age or as he's matured and worked hard and worked on his body. I don't know. I don't think Brandon Ingram's going to get to that level necessarily, but I will say that I do believe that, there's probably still some athletic explosiveness that that is untapped right now that will eventually come to the forefront.
Oh yeah, we're already seeing more explosiveness from him this season. He does still tend to take off, and then he hangs in the air and he brings the ball back down a little too low. And there's times when he gets blocked at the rim because of that. He gets knocked off the ball quite a bit when he is going up for tip-ins. I see him missing the easy tip-in opportunities quite a bit. But again, that's stuff that's going to come. I mean, as he gets stronger and everything, there's a lot of potential that's still there with him. He's going to develop athletically because, a lot of people forget Brandon Ingram may have come out of last year's draft, but he's only about a month older than Lonzo. He could have very easily been in this past summer's draft. I mean, that's how young he was coming out the season before. So there is still plenty of time for him to develop athletically. Physically, he's going to get stronger. I mean, the athletic ceiling for him is not what people would have thought last year because he was just so skinny and he was still so young physically. His body was not ready for the NBA yet.
Yeah, I mean, you just look at some of the top picks in the 2017 draft. He's younger than Josh Jackson. Yeah. He's like a couple months older than De'Aaron Fox. I believe he's younger than Jonathan Isaac, or if he's not, like, he's like right in that range. He's definitely younger than Lauri Markkanen. I want to say he's probably right in the same range with Dennis Smith as well, and is younger than Zach Collins. So, like, of your top 10, like, he's like right in that range. Like, he is as young as what these guys are. And realistically, from an age perspective, this should be his rookie year. Like, these guys aren't even old. Like, Josh Jackson is old for his class, but like De'Aaron Fox, Jonathan Isaac, Zach Collins, Dennis Smith, these guys aren't old for their class. They are normally aged for their class. And Brandon Ingram's age falls right in line with those guys. So I'm just not worried about Brandon Ingram at this stage. Like, I think he's shown the flashes to where we should be pretty excited about it.
We may have talked about this on the last time we had you on the podcast, but let's wrap up with this. If, let's say, Brandon Ingram, given his age, did actually end up declaring in this year's draft class, let's assume that he held off on going to college for a year and that he was a freshman this past year, where would you have taken him in this year's draft with guys like Lonzo and Dennis Smith Jr. and Markelle Fultz and all those guys in the mix?
So I would not have taken him over Fultz. I would not have like, you remember having conversations with me saying like the Lakers should have considered Jason Tatum.
Yes, yeah, you were one of the ones that was a big proponent of Tatum because you liked that combo of Tatum and Ingram together, and so far Tatum's proven you right there.
Yeah, I would not have taken him over Tatum. I probably would have taken him over like the Josh Jackson Lonzo Ball mix. I think I would have. I think that's where he would fall for me. Like,
so probably 3 then?
I think 3. Something like that, yeah. Like I think I'd have had him at third on my board. Like he's just longer than Josh Jackson and has like a relatively similar skill set, and you don't have to worry about like the off court, like all the BS that kind of follows Josh Jackson, the emotional stuff that he portrays on the floor.
Oh hell, I mean we started off the show talking about the whole scuffle with the Suns and Lonzo, and Josh Jackson was like the second guy in that was just he instantly got in there and started pushing people, and all the comments on Twitter were here goes Josh Jackson, here he comes, everybody's just expecting that from him at this point.
And you know what, like I actually think that that's something Phoenix needs from him. Like Phoenix needs like a spark guy, like next to Devin Booker. Like to me that's a good fit. I would probably rather have Brandon Ingram, but, I can understand that situation either way. Yeah, I'd probably rather have Brandon Ingram than guys like De'Aaron Fox or Dennis Smith too long term. Those guys are going to outperform him right now, but, it's all the long game with a guy like Brandon Ingram. You're trying to develop his body and develop his talent to what you need it to be.
Definitely. Very, very good way to end the show. I agree that Brandon Ingram is a long-term play, and as much as fans hate to hear it, I mean, you just got to be patient with a young team that's rebuilding. It's the nature of the beast. It's not fun all the time, but you know what? When we're seeing real progress, like we've seen from guys like Ingram, it's going to pay off in the long run. So I don't want to say trust the process. Enjoy the process, I suppose, for right now. Enjoy watching these young kids grow. And then fans just have to hope the Magic and Rob Pelinka can do something big next summer. Well, Sam, thank you so much for spending time on this show. I really appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, of course. I'm always happy to come on, man.
And fans can follow you on Twitter at Sam_Vecenie and find most of your work at The Athletic, correct? Or is all of your work at The Athletic at this point?
All of my work is at The Athletic right now. A lot of it is college basketball stuff, so I'm not sure how valuable that might be for the Lakers this year yet. We'll see how the rest of their season goes and how the lottery balls shake out. But you can follow my podcast, the Game Theory Podcast, on Twitter or on iTunes, Stitcher, everything else. I talk a lot about the NBA on there. I had David Nurse on last this Friday, I guess, talking about just his path as a trainer in the NBA. He's actually a consultant at UCLA as well. So he got to spend a lot of time with Lonzo Ball. And we talked about that a little bit midway through that podcast and just how we thought that the Lonzo Ball, does he have the dog in him conversation is infuriating in a lot of ways. So I would suggest going there.
All right, great stuff. And once again, Sam, thanks for coming on. Really appreciate it. Always good to catch up with you and have you come on and give your assessment of these players.
Yep. Happy to help.
All right, so that's it for today. Once again, guys, go to iTunes and rate, review, and subscribe to this show. And, of course, go to naturebox.com/Lakers for 50% off your first snack order and MeUndies.com/LakersNation for 20% off your order of some of the softest underwear ever. Don't forget to head over to LakersNation.com for all your latest Lakers news. My name is Trevor Lane, and this has been the Lakers Nation Podcast. See ya.